as our needs are met and we're not in that kind of survival mode, then you 100% see people flourish. See, I think we're gonna kick this conversation off with a little centering breath. So if everybody can just take one big deep breath with me, in, out. All right, here we are.
There we are.
So thank you all for having us again. We're just going to chat a little bit about our experience with higher education, also our experience with incarceration, and how education was really integral in getting us through to to where we are today.
Absolutely.
So I'll let you kind of kick off. Where were you before, before higher education, and then how that play into the transition?
Before higher education, I was in the state of being progressive. I was trying to get my life together, but I didn't really know how. I had a goal in mind, but it was just a goal. I didn't know how to reach it. In my space, getting into college in an incarcerated space allowed me to understand and grow with the necessary tools that they provided with me to be able to navigate in reentry. So what I mean by that is the college setting, it allowed me it taught me communication skills, soft skills, way to up my vocabulary so I can be in those professional spaces, having those conversations when I got out. It also, higher education also brought, I'm trying to figure out a way to put it. It taught me how to take something new as it provided the tools for me, and then it taught me how to learn through it. So basically what college education did for me was it introduced a problem. Then it gave me the tools to see it through, and that's how I gained confidence in the spaces that I was in. With that is what I carried on to the outside, all those cues, all those little things that I learned in this college setting, and that's how I got into the space that I am today.
Yeah, that's great. I think my experience with higher education was coming out of high school. I went to college as a college athlete. Around my second year, I had a mental health diagnosis, and I left school, and that's kind of when I was just out of school for a number of years, multiple hospitalizations for a bipolar, like manic episodes that were happening. And once I kind of finally got that straightened out, I was so far out of school and out of that environment that doing restaurant work and my charge was a drug possession. So in that drug possession, that led me into incarceration. Then finding THEI, I was in my late into my second year when THEI, who the Higher Education Initiative in Tennessee, came through the pods, the dorms or whatever, where we lived, and we started seeing the flyers that there were going to be college courses. I already had some college education and figured it would be a good thing to really just have some positive space and time. So I think a huge part of higher education in prisons, but also outside of, is what it does for the environment and what it does for the environment inside too. I think we really kind of cultivate a community inside in finding education and having classmates, and then when you do get out, and even I've found people that don't have a much more fulfilling life, even on the inside. So after getting into the programs at THEI, I graduated when I got home, and that's kind of what started me on the path to being a full-time artist.
Yeah, I want to say for me, it's just like being in that space, it took me out of individualized thinking and put me into a more of a collaborative space, because now I'm operating with people that I never thought that I would. I'm operating with people that I just used to walk by on a daily, but now as I'm learning these people, I'm understanding how they are valued. So in this space, I started to look at as in the college setting, I started to understand that even though we are all different, we all have a unique spin for the things that we're trying to do, and that's gain a higher education. So with that coexistence that I learned, this is how I knew that even though I was a unique individual in my own self, I can add value in other people's lives just as much as they add value into mine. That was something that I learned from college. So when going through this and I got out and got into the workforce, all of these things I learned in college and prison is what I applied. And this is how I went from having these little accomplishments, which is passing tests, passing assignments. It switched on the outside, it was going from promotion to promotion. So I understood that, okay, as long as I know how to learn and apply, I will always be okay. So how do I teach somebody how to learn and apply in a space like me in a relatable way was my next question. How do you utilize the space of the college to relate to others in a more relatable way?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it reminds me of, who's ever heard this saying, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. I'm sure everybody's heard that in some form or fashion. And I think that's a huge part of being in a college environment. It's like you're in an environment with people who are also trying to do something. They may be doing different disciplines or studying different things, but everyone is, you know, for the most part, trying to graduate, trying to get to the end of their career, and that becomes your community. And it's really, really challenging to be the only person in a community that is striving for those things. And I think the part of THEI was it was a cohort of incarcerated people who were trying to get an education. So while we were all connected in that common goal. So there might be people that are from different backgrounds, different races, different gang affiliations, that are all in the same class, all trying to do the same, you know, have the same goal. And so when we got out, we all stayed connected. I mean, we all, when I got an opportunity, I might share that with another friend or vice versa. And I think that's what college is. That's what this conference is. I mean, everybody, you all are here to network. Like that's one of the main things that happens at these kinds of spaces, is to meet people that will help share opportunities. And that if you've been incarcerated for even a short amount of time, but especially a long amount of time, like your network gets smaller and smaller. Like once you do 6 months, okay, you might have, you know, a few friends that keep calling and visiting. Once you get to 2, 3, 4, 5 years, it's your mom, you know, maybe a sibling or two. And so your network is then to get home and not have a network. And I think that's the big thing THEI does, is it gives you a network. And the opportunities that I still have now, if they didn't come directly from THEI, a lot of them came from the school that I went to. I graduated from Tennessee State University, HBCU. So any other HBCU folks stand up? You know, you don't have to literally stand up, but but yeah, I graduated from Tennessee State University, and so my instructors, they became a part of my network. But I wouldn't have had that network without that initial kind of boost into education and higher education.
Yeah, I feel that. And what I was trying to say earlier was just like, even though we were talking about the spaces with people in them, what college did for me was it introduced that problem, it gave me the tools, and then I got to overcome the problem. That's exactly what I did in my reentry. When the problem arose, I looked at the tools, I hollered at my reentry, and then I seen those issues through. I did the same thing in the workforce. I looked at the task, found the tools that they gave me to learn the task, and then I started getting promotion after promotion after promotion. So with that way of thinking and that train of thought, I would like to basically show the other justice impacted individuals how I got to this place that I am today, basically by being the example. Yeah. And with me being the example, that means setting the tone. But all of these tones that I'm setting, all of these standards that I'm setting is what I gained in the college space. So when it comes to the job that I have out here, time management, prioritizing our schedules, making sure that we meeting deadlines. These are all the things that I was doing in college to get the accomplishments that I was achieving. So now that I'm out here, same thing, come to work on time, prioritize the schedule where I can work. Now I can do the thing, make the deadlines that I have. So now it's basically pushing me up the economic mobility ladder due to the fact that I'm doing what I was taught this whole time. Because for me, that's everything. Like, for me, it's a balance. When you got the economic mobility and the balance for a justice impacted individual, that is crucial. Because this measures my level of success. It also measures my level of independence as an adult. So the further I am up that ladder, the more I have a life that I can live in abundance. But the more I go down that ladder, is more of me living in a life of survival, trying to make ends meet. So how do you feel about that? And how do you feel like we could have a conversation with our justice impacted individuals or our friends, our residents, other justice impacted individuals to get them to that way of thinking so we all can live a life of independence?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it, I mean, you really spoke to it, that when you're just barely making ends meet and you're just kind of, it gets really easy to slip back to old behaviors. It's like, that's just, and it's not just justice impacted people, that's really any human that finds themselves really close to their food, clothing, or shelter being in jeopardy, their children's lives being in jeopardy, then they are more susceptible to incarceration, to all the things that one might have to do just to make it. It's like those levels of need. So I think as people's, as our needs are met and we're not in that kind of survival mode, then you 100% see people flourish. And I think employers are greatly benefited by justice impacted employees. It's like the amount of, for one, like gratitude that someone who's coming out of prison, once they've learned the job and gotten their needs met, et cetera, I've found that justice impacted employees are, for one, grateful for the positions, really want to kind of knock whatever they're doing out of the park. They would, and also have a loyalty for the people that gave them the opportunity. I worked for the same employer for about 10 years after I got out, and still when he calls, I'm like, what do you need? And there's a level of there's just a level of loyalty to the people that have helped in times when you didn't get a lot of opportunities. So I think it's a win. It's a win for both sides. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel that, but for my personal experience, it was a little bit different. You know what I mean? Like, I had that sense of feeling with my old employer. I was doing the best that I could. I was the best person on the job. Me just impacted getting out the peak of COVID. Nobody wanted to work. So I'm getting promotion after promotion after promotion after promotion. I'm shining, I'm thinking. But then it got to a point where it was a pivotal point and I could have been in leadership. I got stalled out. So I wonder why, I'm like, why is it that I can't seem to make it to this one, but y'all don't have a problem with holding me back while y'all go look for somebody who y'all feel is more available? Absolutely. Why didn't you try to impact the justice impacted community and let them have an example of a leader in the workspace? It was more so for me, like, they wanted to play a catalyst. I was the catalyst. I was the spokesperson for the justice impacted individuals, and they really didn't want nothing to do with us, is how I took it. It's because when I'm on a shift and my supervisor works with all of us, he is over all of us, but he only has the time to come and ask me what that justice impacted person is doing. Why don't you go ask that justice impacted individual? But due to the fact that you choose me as a token black guy, a token justice impacted individual, we are all trying to get our money up. We are all trying to make a living. So why don't you really engage the people that you work with? And that would really cause the friction for me. It kind of made the work a lot harder. Absolutely. I mean, it's the reason why I don't work there right now, to be honest. You know Absolutely. What I mean? Just due to the simple fact of, here I go, giving it my all, feeling my best, striving to be who I could really be, just to come to find out that you only fragmenting me. You're not really letting me succeed. You only giving me this to make sure that you don't have to deal with this side of the scope. How do you feel about that side?
Man, I think that's 100% a true problem. And it's that's so baked into our society. Like, our society uses, I have to say, preys on the people that are in the most need. And it's like, well, these people really need the job, they need the opportunity, so they're gonna put up with whatever foolishness we give them, you know, and you see it every day in every workforce. So if it's a formerly incarcerated person, then a lot of employers look at that like, oh man, they're not gonna quit, nobody else gonna hire them. So I can treat them. If it's someone who is who's an immigrant who may not have the proper paperwork, they might say, oh hey, they can't go anywhere and get another job because, you know. So I think it's up to employers to have some, basically to not prey on people who do have less opportunities. And then as those of us who have kind of reached different levels and have had more opportunities, it's our responsibility to hold those, those people and those employers accountable. And also find other opportunities where it's like, yeah, there is something else there's somewhere else that these people can go. And as you said, you work, where are you working right now?
Oh, Tennessee Higher Education.
THEI, so exactly.
Absolutely.
so it's like, yeah, if you, if you don't value the people that are there, there's people that will value them.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, I think that's as a formerly incarcerated person or justice impacted person, as a black person, black male, like I definitely have seen that kind of trend amongst employers. And I think the best that we can kind of do is we know our value. I know that there's something that people who are justice impacted have to offer that no one else in society really has to offer. Like there's an amount of problem solving, there's an amount of resilience that one kind of has to exhibit to get through a prison sentence. Like it's I think people think you just turn the key and you just make it. It's like there's certain things that every kind of fringe member of society has to do something extraordinary to make it through whatever that thing is that they were in, whether it's justice impacted, whether it's whatever that group has to overcome. And so yeah, I think the next panel is about disabilities, people that so yeah, like people that have to overcome have something to offer that people that haven't had to overcome do. That's just kind of that's steel sharpens steel. So
absolutely.
Tell me about what's next. What are your future kind of aspirations or goals? What's next or what's now? You can kind of get neither one.
Well, my what's now is trying to take my executive director spot, Sean Holman Wheatley. So, yeah, that's my next job. Like every slip counts. I know I'm new, but hey,
I'm glad you weren't recording that. Man, Sean's gonna be like,
I've been with the organization full time since February 5th. By next February, I should be trying to figure out where Sean is. Like, I'm trying to get there. So, you know what I mean? That's my goals.
Nice.
Omari and Edward, thank you so much for that. Apologies for messing up your last name.
Oh, you're good.
I know. We now have about 10 minutes for Q&A, so if there are questions, I'll go here and then there.
So my question is, what other supports helped you in your success, or what supports would you have liked to have had? And the reason I'm asking this is I've taught in Lyman's and Colorado's most dangerous prison. I worked 10 years in post-incarceration employment, and I have just seen a massive amount of failures once an individual is placed in employment. And I've tried to identify just what supports would help.
I think one of the first things I asked for when I was coming home was definitely financial literacy. Learning how to budget, do things of that nature. And because a lot of those things like that cause issues at home, and you can't really work effectively because your mind was so scrambled and things like that. So just like financial literacy courses, social development courses, like to make sure that I can understand the conversation that I'm having with these people that's in professional settings, because it might not be a space that I'm familiar with. This is probably a first time that I'm in that space. And when it comes with an employer, just getting an understanding of what the employer expects, because some people walk into that job thinking that, oh, they hire justice impacted individuals, they're going to train me anyway, I can come and do anything. It's just a mindset that we have sometimes. But also just training that person into knowing what to expect coming into that space should help a lot of people moving forward.
Yeah, and I would say, just as employers, just like an employer is getting the benefit of someone with the resilience and whatever the thing might be, whether it's a justice impacted box, they get a check because the employee is there, whatever the benefits that they get. I think employers have to have the grace of, this isn't someone that's coming from high school, college, master's, and then into the workforce. Like, this might be someone who had a challenging childhood, was expelled from high school, did 10 to 15 years. And so I think the expectation that this person can just like seamlessly fit into an environment that's completely foreign is ridiculous. And so I think the employers have to hold your standard, but also understand that some of the gifts that these people are bringing, and myself as one of them, they also their learning curve is going to be different because it's coming from a completely different environment. Just like if anybody else went and you dropped the majority of people into a prison, their learning curve is it's going to take them a minute. It's like, yeah. So I think employers could really have a bit of grace with the time that it takes to adjust. And if someone's working hard and doing their job and bringing something to the place, then yeah, give some of that time.
I think we have time for one more question. I saw a hand over here.
Thank you both for sharing your different perspectives as far as, just kind of navigating nonprofit spaces and the gratitude and the loyalty, and sometimes when that becomes a liability. I am justice impacted. I'm new to the nonprofit space, and I feel like as I have found my voice, learning about the whole pet to threat ideology, what advice could you give to a justice impacted individual as they find their voice and their unique talents to do so without shame or not feeling like, they're burdening others, or to do it, even in the face of adversity, when people are kind of like, oh, you're stepping out of the box that is prescribed of you?
That's a good one. I would say definitely Pastor Omari.
Hey. Look, that's soccer alone. Well, I think our executive director, you can wave your hand, Laura Ferguson Mims, is yes, I know that a lot of it's the leadership, like whatever the leadership, the tone that they set as the leader of our organization. She is very vocal about us being the experts. It's like, we are the experts on our experience, and that's been a helpful part of moving into spaces with confidence and sharing whatever the truth is for me, because I can only speak for, I can kind of only speak for myself and the few people that I was in with. But, and then also as an artist, I'm a visual artist. That's kind of what I do for work, and just being honest and sharing my experience has been a really empowering. That's been a really empowering way to do that, because I found that the more honest that I was and the more that I shared what my experience was, that was actually more of a benefit than a harm. And I know the justice impacted people, we have to kind of learn that balance of using our story as something that is a positive, and not just like this kind of thing in the back room that we're trying to shut away. So I found art is a huge help for me, and also the leadership that I work with. When the people that are kind of at the top of the organizations have your back, then that's a good place to be. So.
And for me, I would just say, own it. This is what I do. I go into these spaces not knowing who I'm going to impact with my story, but all I know is to be me. So whether if it's today, whether it's 10 years from now, I know that this story could resonate with somebody out there, so let me tell it in its full detail, so I can make sure that the person who is feeling the way that I was feeling once then can understand how I got to where I am today. And that's how I would be with my story and my lived experience as a justice impacted individual coming into these new spaces.
Absolutely.
Thank you both so much. Everybody, please help me thank Omari, Booker, double checking,
Yes, you got it.
and Edward Jones. So thank you for being here.